This is the Hot Take Hockey Podcast with your hosts, Lucas and John Viveiros.
Okay, are you ready, fellas?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Hold on, is it episode 32?
We're on Epi 32.
All right, man, you got to intro this shit.
Not as big as 32 Thoughts, but we're on Epi 32, right?
Name one player that wore 32.
32.
They have to be like a goalie.
For the Leafs, 32?
For the Leafs is not the one I think of is not a goalie.
I was thinking of Statlock or Staylock. I think he wore 32.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right on.
The one I was thinking, I think Steve Thomas wore 32.
Yeah, that might be right.
Stumpy.
That's a fair shout, I think so.
There we go.
Yeah, I gotta Google it now.
I didn't think we were on the quiz here yet.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah. Okay, I was right on that one.
There you go.
Pat
There
myself
you go.
on the back here.
Hey, Corey, ready on command. We love it.
All right.
Honestly,
sweet.
the reason I said it was because I was scrolling Twitter as we were doing this. It says Matthew Nyes wearing number 23.
which is that's my B-Day number, so I like that. But that reminds me of Dermott when I see it still, right? I'm still thinking of Dermott.
I know, yeah, he's the last one to wear it. It's the Jordan number, eh?
Yeah, man, the Jordan.
That's kind of nice. You got your Jordan year every year.
Oh yeah, and it's 23 this year, which means we know what's happening this year, right?
Wow.
Yeah. All right, okay, let me tee it off with a quick intro. Welcome to episode 32 of the Hot Take Hockey Podcast. We got a special guest joining us today, and we couldn't have picked a better time. We could not have picked a better time. He's a senior content creator and well-known media personality with TSN's BARDOWN crew. Let's give a warm welcome to CORWIN McCollum.
Let's go. Big dub.
Wow. Thanks for having me, fellas. I'm already feeling right at home.
I gotta say, Corwin, all the videos I watch of BARDOWN, that hat that you're sporting right now, I love it. You got to give me the link of where I'm buying that one soon.
Yeah,
so, because people ask about it a lot in the comments, I don't think I've ever actually answered, but this is the answer. It's that it's at the Leafs team store, and so Z on the team, his name's Daniel Zakshevsky. If you know him, he runs our quizzes and a big part of our team, and he actually, it's a long story. He gave this to me for my birthday, but it was because I told him, I was like, my buddy had the hat, and I don't know why I didn't just go get it myself, but I was like, my buddy had this hat, and I was like, I think he'd really like it. Like, you should go get it. And he did. And then he stopped being a Leafs fan. He's like a Sabres, he always goes like, I'm not a Sabres fan. I just like following them. Anyways, weirdest turn. And then he gifted me the hat for my birthday. Then I now have 4 of these hats.
Wow.
Because so I wore the one so much, which is probably not surprising. Like you said, I wear it and everything. But it got so worn down that I was worried. I was like, oh man, and I don't know, I'm pretty reckless with stuff. One day I was just walking down the street and it blew off my head and landed in a puddle or something.
Just left it there.
No, I put it right back on my head, but but I was like, oh man, this is gonna happen one time where I'll be on a bridge and it's gonna blow off, and then I'll never have the hat again. So I went and bought 3 more.
Wow.
Now I have 4 of the hats. So I'm covered for life.
There we go. That's a good way to kick it off, buddy. I have so many Leaf hats, but I'll definitely have to add that one to the collection.
Good luck. I honestly went back. I was like, I think I need more, and then they seem to be gone. So
you took all the stock.
Yeah.
Well, let's roll into let's start off with the Matthew Nyes news today. I know he's going to be playing tonight versus Florida Panthers. We're obviously recording this on Monday night. Nyes is in. Lafferty out. He's got an injury. He's been buzzing the last few games. I've really liked his game. What do you see in Matthew Nyes getting here with the start with Kerfoot and Achari? I don't know how much offense he's going to be able to drive with those guys, but how do you see that playing out, at least in game 1?
I mean, it kind of fits. If you watch him play in university, he throws the body around quite a bit. So he's not shy to do that. Throw him on there with Achari and Kerfoot. It's a good forechecking line for sure. Obviously Kerfoot's not going to throw the body around too much, but he's a fast guy that can get on the forecheck. And Noel Acciari, I feel like that's been his best attribute, is really just, again, combining a bit of skill and presence out there. So I think he'll be a good fit for that. I'd hope that he could play a little higher up the lineup at some point, but hey, it's just the start, just the beginning. Honestly, I was shocked he's playing tonight. Guy lost the national championship yesterday.
Yeah.
He just
Well, and Keefe was saying that he probably wouldn't have been in if it weren't for Lafferty getting hurt, and then Yarncro's still out. But it's good to see him get in there because there's only 3 games left, so they're gonna have to, throw him in and see how it fits. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I was gonna ask, where would you have him if it was your team?
Put him right next to Matthews and Marner. I like see what you got. Like I mean, I get that they've had some good lines rolling there recently, so they're probably not looking to mix it up too much right away. And then, like you said, I think it's probably more of just positional need at this point rather than actually thinking like, oh, this is where he's going to play. Mm-hmm. So, but in my mind, like these games mean literally nothing. In my mind, like again, you shouldn't even be starting most of your guys tomorrow night. Like you're playing the team you're about to play. Bench everyone. Because you've got home ice locked up. So I just mean if I'm saying, okay, you're going to do that tomorrow, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. But honestly, they probably don't have too much like
depth pieces to throw in. Yeah,
well, they don't have too much like organizational flexibility there.
Yeah,
like, it's not like
flexibility.
So night. That's a guaranteed. Simmer's got to be in there.
Yeah.
He'll be in for sure. I wonder who sits out. But okay, so then either way, if you do end up sitting some guys tomorrow, that sucks because you'd love to see him play a little higher up the lineup. Like again, like when I see that Tavares, O'Reilly, Nylander line, like I kind of would rather see, I don't know, either knock Bunting down to that or put Nyes on that, and then knock one of Tavares or O'Reilly to third line center, because I just think you have more offensive upside in those top 3 lines then.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, like you look at the line of Kerfoot, Achari, and Nyes, and you're kind of like, well, they're not going to score too much. And you look at Aston Reese, Camp, and Gustafsson. Wait, what? Oh,
Reese, Camp, and well, right now they're running 11-7 today.
Yeah. I was looking at Daily Faceoff, and I'm like, Gustafsson, what the hell? But yeah, so I guess and then whatever line of recent Camp you throw out there, if you throw Nyes with him at some point, then you're not getting too much offense out of that either. So
yeah, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting to see. Like a lot of Leaf fans are really campaigning to have Nyes in the top 6. And Johnny and I had like a back and forth about this, and I just don't want the pressure, to over.
Yeah, but there's no pressure at all right now.
There is no pressure right now. That's a good point. And you know what? For the last 3 games, I'm on board with placing him wherever. It's just when we get a little ahead of ourselves with he hasn't played a game yet, and we're talking about playing the most pressured playoff series of this team. I know what you mean, tough.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like you're gonna be playing. Like clearly they have some kind of plan for this guy, and they want him in there. So I mean.
Well, that's why they didn't
throw him in now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Lucas, what CORWIN said about it not mattering, like, of course. But I wonder in the player's head, so, like, Keefe's decision-making on sitting, like, Matthews, a goal away from 40, Nylander, 2 goals away from 40, Marner, 2 points away from 100, like, as we record before the Panthers-Leafs game. So, I wonder if, like, it gets to that Tampa game tomorrow night and it gets to the Rangers game in the final one, like, if they're still 1 away from each of those milestones, I wonder what happens.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Because I think guys do want that. Like, right? Yeah. You don't hear guys talk about it often, but did you guys see that Jack Hughes clip the other day? It's like somebody was talking about the Devils record. He's like, oh, I want that bad boy.
Yeah. Matthews has got to hit. I mean, I was talking like he was having 40 in the bag a few weeks ago, and it's getting close now to it not happening.
But Nylander too, because he was cruising for so long. He obviously slumping a bit, but I mean slumping for him. Like it's not like
for his standard.
I think at one point
or anything.
High 40s, closer to 50. Like I think we were Lucas on the pod. I think a month or 2 ago, I think we were like Nylander for 50 question mark.
Yeah. It was fully talked about. He was so consistent for so long, and then this stretch. I don't know. I'd say the last 5-6 weeks it's lingered a little bit now, but it's that delicate balance of rest or rust and all of that. And I don't know, you just don't want injuries is obviously the most important thing. Like when you see guys, really important players go down, I know Tanner Jeannot is maybe not at that same level, but for the Lightning to give up all they give up for him, and now he's probably not going to be in at least the start of the series, as a bit of that sucks for them. But as far as as far as the Leafs go, so let's just say Matthew Knies is in your playoff lineup. Okay, let's be optimistic and say he's gonna light it on a fire. He's gonna look really good these first few games, and they're gonna have him in there for game one. Who comes out, Corwin?
Oof,
it's tough, right?
I know you were giving a compliment earlier, but like it's probably Lafferty for me.
Yeah,
like, I and clearly they like Lafferty for something, because I mean,
love Kerfoot.
Yeah,
Like,
I wouldn't
like
hate dropping Kerfoot either. Like, I'm not a big Kerfoot guy. I probably wanted him gone at the trade deadline. I'll tell you what, there better not be an 11-7 run in the playoffs when you got this kind of, like, again, we're debating who we want in the lineup here. If they run 11-7 and you're benching like Lafferty and Knies, like that's a little nuts to me, especially to get like.
Just to have the 7th D to like limit Luke Schen's minutes or something like that.
I know, but like if you're trying to limit a guy's minutes, like maybe you just don't play him.
Yeah,
like, that's probably the best call.
I'm fully on the 12-6 wagon as well. I think this 11-7 thing, it's fine in the regular season when maybe there's guys injured, knocked up. You're trying to, rest and recover. But as far as playoffs go versus Tampa, I don't like the 11-7 lineup. John brought up a good point though. He was talking today about how maybe we see different lineup configurations at home versus away. And for example, having O'Reilly in a different position, in the top 6 at home, where you have, Sheldon Keefe has control of the lines. And then on the road, you put him on the third line to sort of neutralize Tampa's depth and always have a responsible center out there.
When you look at Tampa's center options, I mean, to me, the flexibility on that is just scary. Like at any point, they can put Stammer up the middle, they can put Point up the middle, they can put Cirelli up the middle, Nick Paul up the middle. Like they have those options. So I think the fact that if you're at home and you have those, like if you have the flexibility in Keefe's perspective, I mean, throw O'Reilly, Tavares, Nylander against like that third or fourth line of Tampa versus you don't want. Love the guys, but you don't want a Chari, Kerfoot, Lafferty like getting stuck against one of those top 2 lines in Tampa, because then that's where you're gonna get screwed.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I totally agree. I mean, I still, in my mind, like I just think I personally, I know, and this is like I've eaten shit so many times on this goddamn team. Like
I know.
But like if I try to just think of it like, okay, get rid of the like fear of the Leafs losing all the time and just think about like the hockey, and like I genuinely think the Leafs are a better team right now. And I just, in my mind, when you then start like overcomplicating things, changing lineups every game and like doing all this stuff, it's just like, if you're the better team, just go out and play your hockey and win the game. And obviously that's really easy for me to say. And, but I just think, I don't know, once you start complicating things a bit, maybe that can get yourself in your head, right? You can start thinking like, oh, we got to match up against this. We got to do that. Like oh no, like I ended up out against, like, again, if you're knowing that game plan going in, you're like, oh, I'm out against a line I shouldn't be out against. And then you're thinking, do I need to get off rather than just playing your game and whatever? Obviously that's some pretty like
mentally it can just
anecdotal stuff, and but yeah, for sure. I personally think like I would just love to just go out and win in less than 7 games, and obviously, like why wouldn't you as a Leafs fan? But I just mean like just get it over with, and I think that I don't know. I'm more optimistic than I have been about the Leafs probably all season long, because I think in the last like between 5 and 10 games they've looked really good. I think even when they lose, they look like a good team, and I don't think that's been the case all year. So I'm kind of just in the spot of like, get your best guys on the ice and play.
Yeah.
So boys, I think, Lucas, we've had this debate a bunch of times. I feel like it's easier to fill in the blanks when we decide if O'Reilly's in the top 6 on that second line or on the third line. So like, I'll throw it to either Lucas or Corwin. Like, or Lucas, if you want to go, like, is O'Reilly on the second or third line to start in your eyes? Like, if it has to stay consistent and Keefe wants to run the same lineup every game.
That is really tough.
Yeah, it's so tough. It's so tough. Corwin, You kick it off. You kick it off. How about you give
Put
your
the
opinion
pressure
first?
on the guest. I love it.
I'll give him the pressure.
Personally, if it was my choice, I'm going third line.
Yeah.
Just because I love, again, like, how many playoffs do we have to talk about the third line being the most important thing, especially with this with this Tampa team that just like it's something that if you can then add that player that is going to kind of add at least a little bit of a, I mean it's not like he's a crazy, like he's not Mitch Marner out there, so it's, I'm not saying like he's going to be this dynamic forward on the third line, but he's a guy that has racked up a good amount of points in the NHL, and I think if you put him out there with, again, if you're going to put O'Reilly on the third line, I'm much more comfortable putting Matthew Knies there too. Like, I mean, that's something that's pretty appealing to me then. And again, if it does go to a Knies, O'Reilly, Kerfoot line or something like that, and then you have a like pure shutdown line of Zach Aston Reese, Noah Chari, and David Kampf. And then again, like you said, you do then still have that center flexibility where you've got like, I guess you probably got like 6 guys you could play at center if you count William Nylander. Obviously, I know he doesn't play a ton of center now, but like has in his career, and you could throw him there if you want. But you've got a lot of positional flexibility. You've got again, I think 3 lines where there's the ability to score on any of them, and I mean like that seems ideal to me. But I'll trust Sheldon Keefe, I guess.
Yeah, Corbin. I was going to say, I always go back to Lucas, we've talked about this countless times. I always go back to the HBK line with Pittsburgh. And that's why, Lucas, I shot you that DM. I was like, man, I keep looking at the potential of having O'Reilly on that second line. And it makes me think, like, the way Kessel just went off on that third line for Pittsburgh on that run, it's like, could Nylander, as they've put him now on that second power play unit, I don't know if that's going to stick. But I like the conversation of, like, you can't really have 3 flanks on the power play for one. So talking about the power play, it's like Nylander, Matthews, Marner. Those are your guys. So in that structure, you probably end up having to put like O'Reilly or Bunting on the net front presence. So just in terms of 5-on-5 and power play, maybe they put Nylander on a secondary option. And then, I mean, maybe that's
what they were doing on Saturday.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that, but like, I just love Nylander so much that it's like, come on, just get him out there. But
I actually like that look. So I'll agree with Corwin that I wanted to have the alternate perspective, but I agree with Corwin where I like O'Reilly lining up as your third C. I just like the 3 deep lines, and you never get caught out on the ice without one of those 3 big centers on the ice for the most part. So I like that a lot. And I think Sheldon Keefe's shown that, fresh off a penalty kill, he'll throw 3 big guys together. So I think O'Reilly will still get shifts occasionally with Matthews or Tavares a couple times a game, here and there, if they go about it that way. I like that. For the power play, I know Montreal is just not a good team, so I don't want to look too deep into it. Yeah, but O'Reilly with those guys, O'Reilly's shown even in St. Louis, like he plays really well with skilled players because he just makes the simple pass, the simple move. He's not a flashy player. He just always, he's quick to get to the puck, make a lot of plays just to get the skilled players the puck. And I like him I like that look of him on the first power play on Saturday. I know it's Montreal, so pump the brakes, but
no, I'm with you. I don't think he looked bad or anything. I just love William Nylander so much, and I think like he's probably been our best player this year, and it's a little weird to see him on the second unit there. Yeah. And I always did love the kind of dual threat of having Matthews and Nylander as the one-timer options on kind of both sides there, where like they can be opposite of each other. And then I don't know, I guess that's probably more of a thing that it just went back to a couple years ago when their power play really struggled, and it was just like, why aren't you just putting Nylander on the other side? And because it was like Marner was on the one side, and it was like he wasn't really shooting as well at that time, and it was just a whole thing. And I feel like since then I've just been stuck on this, like just set them off on their sides, have Marner create, and then
the thing is too, the Leafs they've shown this season. I know the playoffs are just everybody starts at ground zero, but the Leafs are a better 5-on-5 team than Tampa. But the Leafs are going to have to beat them in special teams when it counts. Like when the Leafs get a power play opportunity, they're going to have to convert on some of them. And they've shown through their playoff history with a lot of this core that they're not very, they haven't done that up to this point. So it is very crucial to win the special teams battle in my eyes. But it's that balance, like Corwin said too. I don't want to overthink it, because I do really, really think that the Leafs are overall a better team than Tampa, and should be able to handle them.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would say about the one thing like the second power play unit did not look good in my mind. Like the one that Nylander was on, which, like, again, it's your second power play unit, whatever, but it was just kind of something where it felt like there was too much of the burden on him. It felt like everybody on the ice, rather than like, kind of felt like everybody just trying to get the puck to Nylander too, where I think we've all been on the ice where there's one clear best player and you're just kind of like, oh, I'll give it to him. And then so I do find that sometimes those second units, when you're just looking for, like, you put your top guys out there and then they pass the puck around for a minute and 30 seconds and then don't get a shot on net, and you're like, just screw this, and you end up just throwing out a unit that they're all just looking to make a greasy play and get the puck on net. And like, that's not, I don't know, you're not really getting that difference there with Nylander on there, because he's just so skilled that I think, you want to get him the puck and just see what happens. But
yeah, and it's also, if you're going like a strict 1 power play to 2 power play, I mean, most times the second power play is only getting like 20 to 30 seconds. So it just, that's the part of it where, Lucas, I think we talked about it a few pods ago, is like, if you take that Edmonton effect where it's like, maybe you keep Matthews for the full 2 minutes, and then, like, if you wanted to have Nylander as that secondary option on the power play, okay, Tavares and O'Reilly hop off, Bunting and Nylander hop on when Marner and Matthews just stay on. So, I mean, we see it with Edmonton all the time. McDavid and Draisaitl for those full 2 minutes are not leaving the ice. They're just not.
Yeah. So that's a good take.
And you might get more of that in the playoffs too, right? When
let's I want to pick your brain on the D too, because we got to move position by position. I feel like you could spend 30, 40 an hour talking about forwards, and then you can talk about the D. It's crazy, like, just how much depth they have and all the different things they can do. So on D, they obviously got, 8 or 9 guys, maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 of them will factor into the series overall. To start game 1, let's hear your D pairs, Corwin. Let's hear it.
Do you go, I guess, like, again, they mix it up so much that, like, I do like, I'm going to, this is a weird order.
Start with the don't like.
Well, I'm going to start with my second D pairing.
Okay.
Which I'm doing this very intentionally, because I don't want him to be the top D pairing, and that's Morgan Rielly. I like that they have been probably playing kind of McCabe, Brody a little bit more than him. But either way, so I'd probably go Rielly and Brody as the second pairing, just because I think Brody is the one guy that really plays to all of Morgan Rielly's weaknesses. And then so I'd keep them, and then but like, that's so nuts to then say like Justin Hall is your number 1 D pairing. Like him and Jake McCabe would be that's tough.
I know, Corbin, it's easy to talk about, and then game 1 we're watching Hall and McCabe get exposed by Stammer Point and Kucherov. So, like, it's
like honestly, maybe then I'm going like, oh man.
I mean, I'll just pick this. I think it makes a big difference if Schen's in or not, because they've had so many looks at the Rielly-Schenn pair. And then if that's a potential pair where Rielly's ice time just gets boosted if he's on the power play a lot and stuff like that, then you can go to the Brody-McCabe shutdown pair. And I think if we look at that on the surface, you probably rely on that a lot more against the top line of Tampa.
Which I'm into that. I feel like, I don't know, I have just in my mind, I don't think they'll ever I feel like they're gonna put Justin Hall in. In my mind, like they love him so much, they're never gonna get rid of him. So I can't imagine a lineup without him. Unless, I guess, again, it's possible. Weirdly enough, I love Timothy Liljegren, and I think if you took the whole season in, I think he's been pretty good. But weirdly enough, probably like since the trade deadline ish, he's had his struggles that like it sucks to say, because I think he's one of the more unique defensemen on the team in terms of what he can actually bring to them in a transition game, and he's skilled and just he's a great skater with the puck. But I I don't know. I would not be as upset as I thought I would be at one point if they went if their right side was basically like Brody, Shen, Hall, or like, which is nuts.
There's a that.
Yeah, like I could see that happening. I like Gustafsson too, honestly. I don't really see how he's gonna I don't think they'll get him in, but I actually like, again, they've been using him a bit on the power play, and I actually do think he's a pretty good fit there. I just don't really see
how he factors in.
If you're getting your best pairings out there, I don't think he's.
Well, I also just think if people think, I mean, I agree, Riley can be a defensive liability at times, but it's like that's the thing with Gustafsson. That I mean, any fans of a team that's seen Gustafsson, it's like great power play guy, great offensive producer, but defensively, just he doesn't even know where he's going in the defensive zone. So that's the problem with Gustafsson.
Yeah, and Riley does frustrate me a lot, but he's another guy that since the trade deadline he's been pretty good. So like I can't really harp on him too much. I just because like realistically, probably most of my problem with him at this point is just that he makes a lot of money and like, but he's also like if I was just to give some insight into like. Because obviously we meet the guys and stuff from different things. He's probably the nicest guy I've met on the team. He's so funny and like so I do like him as much as he'll bother me sometimes. I'm like, he seems like a good guy though. Like
I deal with that. I deal with that conflicting feeling because John and I met him at the what's the game? Centennial Classic. Yeah, the Centennial Classic. We met him after the game. And he's just such a nice guy, man. And John loves him. And when I met him, I'm like, this guy's so humble, such a good dude.
Yeah.
And I loved him a little bit more when he made a little less money. And now I'm, that's the only thing.
Of course, I hate that we have to be like that as fans. Yeah. Like it's such a gross way to think about the game because I'm a big supporter of just like root on your team. Like especially like the Marner stuff. When all that was happening, it was like. Mm-hmm. Again, like obviously nobody really says it now, which is great. But at the time it was like, what, the guy makes like $1 million more than you wanted. Like, who cares? Yeah. Like what's the difference between like Andre Kasha and Craig Smith? Like, get over it.
Yeah, and that was even a Nylander conversation way back when he got his deal.
Well, which like looks like the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corin, I like what you said about like different players, how they've played since the deadline. And I mean, we don't need to dive too deep into this, but I mentioned this to Lucas last pod, and it's like, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not that Engvall and Sandin got traded, and then like since then the fellow Swedes, Nylander and Liljegren, have looked kind of suspect, but we don't need to dive into that. But I just like I find that kind of interesting.
The fellas are just bummed. They're just like, I just miss my boys.
It's harsh behind the scenes, but I guess for me, I think the biggest debate I think, Lucas, as much as I don't like it, I think Hull is in. So I think at this point, the only debate outside of that, what the pairs will actually be, it's just between Shen and Liljegren, I think.
Yeah.
That debate. Like if they're not going 7, if they're going 60, it's probably just between Shen and Liljegren at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Shen's got the inside edge right now, just based on how they're consistently playing him with Riley and how Liljegren's played since the deadline. But
he benched both Liljegren and Shen at points over the last couple of weeks. After that giveaway, who do they play? Who are they playing when that Liljegren giveaway to the goal?
Is it the Canes? Talking about the Canes game?
I think the Canes. And then Shen's giveaway off the glass that led to the goal.
Yeah.
So both those plays resulted in both those guys being benched. So to be honest, I don't know who Keith prefers at this point.
We will see. What about the goaltending? Let's talk about the goaltending. So obviously Samsonov, barring catastrophe, he's going to play game 1 and he's probably going to have the reins. We'll see how far he takes it, but his playoff record, he's 1-6. Just want to point that out. Context is important. He played on the Capitals. He played in obviously the weaker team in that series. I believe one of them was against Boston. But he's 1-6, 298 goals against, 907 save percentage. So not tremendously experienced in playoffs, but he's been really, really good this year for the Leafs when he's been called upon. Are you confident in Samsonov, and how do you feel as far as how you felt with Jack Campbell, how you felt with Freddie Anderson in those series? Like, is it similar?
I don't know if like this is I feel like I'm wasting people's time when they ask me about goalies, because I'm just like, couldn't care less, honestly. Yeah. Because I genuinely believe you could have the best goalie in the world and he could let in 3 weak goals and lose you a game. Like it happens. Genuinely, it happened last year. Like Shesterkin, everybody was pretty much unanimously could agree that he was the best goalie in the world last year, and like he had a couple of games in the playoffs last year where he was not good, and like in such a short series, anything can happen. Samsonov's been good this year. I mean, but like again, I feel no different than when I felt about Campbell or Anderson. I just think like if they had somebody who was like either really bad or really good, that would change my mind a little bit. And like, but I just don't really feel
he's somewhere just in the good. He's in the solid category.
He's fine.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that because I agree with that sentiment. This is why I've the last few years I've changed my whole perspective on the position. I think like, you don't go give a goalie the bag like almost ever. Unless it's Vasilevsky or Shesterkin, or Sorokin maybe. But that's probably about it, man. Like I just wouldn't throw the book at any goalie like for double digits to hold on to him because
the Panthers are feeling that.
Yeah.
That's such a tough contract.
That's a tough one. But what about Joseph? So you're the goaltending, who knows? But so Joseph
Wall, throw him in.
Yeah.
He's the same because they're all the same. Just put him in. They'll play fine. I mean, like, I have the utmost faith in pretty much like if you had the 24th to 6th ranked goalies anywhere in that range,
same.
You'll be fine. Like as long as if you just outplay the team, and you'll probably be fine. I'm sure. Honestly, I'm saying this, and then we're gonna get some like Vesatoskala full ice goal from one of these guys, and then I'm gonna feel like an asshole. But I don't know. I can't bring myself to worry about goalies.
Overthink it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Most of them are fine. And obviously there's guys that you think like, oh, when you really need a save, they can come up and make it. But you only know they can do that when they do it. So maybe that's this year for them.
Yeah. I do want to have full belief in Samsonov, but Lucas, as we've talked about, like you've seen teams in the past that like have gone into the season with a tandem and kind of been riding. Like obviously we don't know Matt Murray's health status and what you just said, like Joe Wall, it's all the same kind of at some point. But I do wonder, I mean, we've seen it in the past with like Washington. Grubauer started the series, played the first couple of games. Holtby went the rest of the way. You saw it with Pittsburgh. Fleury played the first couple of rounds. Murray goes in, plays the rest of the way. So I'm not saying we're going to see that, but I wonder if the Leafs, looking at past years, look at the situation and be like, okay, if a guy goes a couple of games where it's a little shaky, we go to the next guy. I don't know what's.
I think so. Definitely, like, because I wouldn't argue with the fact that like there's a huge mental side of the game, especially with goalies more than anything. So like I agree that like if it's going rough, try something else. Because like again, I just think like the other guy will probably be fine. So like I don't really care. Like throw Joseph Wall in. Like
after somebody lost his card, we're up for anything.
I know, right? I mean, like at this point, honestly, I think Jed Alexander could be a pretty solid playoff goalie for us.
We need to close out with how we think this series is going to go down. I'll quickly start off and say that I have puffed my chest out in a lot of playoff series and really thought it was the time. I will say some of those Boston ones though, I was like a little weary and I was just blindly having some confidence. But obviously Montreal, Columbus, like I felt good those ones. And even last year versus Tampa, I felt really good. And once we had game 7 at home, I thought it was in the bag too. So with all that being said, we're here now. I think the Lightning's right side is a lot weaker this year on D. I think overall their team is the weakest it's been, throughout this sort of, last 5-6 year run they've had of being a really, really good team. I mean, you can even go further back than that. And so with that being said, I'm ready to put my chest on the line and say Leafs in 6. What says you, Corwin?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I thought I was about to match you, but I think I'm going Leafs in 5.
Woo!
Yeah. I mean, like, I genuinely just think they're like, but plus, cause like, I think weirdly enough, I'm kind of almost like, if they could wrap it up in 5, they got it. I think if it goes beyond that, then I think it's like, then the mental thing starts to go in and like, God, it's happening again and like whatever. But I think like, I genuinely think they're just like a significantly better team this year. I shouldn't say significantly. Tampa's still good, but
yeah. But I think the Leafs too are the best version they've been, in my opinion. I was having this conversation with some friends on the weekend. I think this is the best Leaf team in the Matthews-Marner era since the 2019 team that had Matthews, Tavares, Kadri up the middle. And I think this team's even better than that team. I really do. Like, I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling really good. And that scares me. That scares me.
Yeah, I know that's the worst. Like, that's when it's really gonna hurt. No, I mean, I agree. I think they've been just a really good team. So I especially again, I'd say like in the last, like I said, like 5 to 10 games, they've really sold me. So,
and what's the X factor? Like, what's it really going to be that pushes them, to win it in 5, like you said, or win it?
Like, it's a boring one, but I think it's the big guys. Like, again, like most of these playoff runs that people go on, like, I know we always talk about like the third line because they score some random goal in Game 7, like goddamn Nick Paul, or stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like these teams that really go on runs, it's because they're big guys, like just go nuts. And like, so I personally think just a monster series for Matthews is I think what really separates it, because I think he's looked a little different lately. So I hope that for him.
All right, let's cross our fingers, cross our toes, say some prayers, and hope that's the way it goes. I think Samsonov obviously is going to play a big factor into it in terms of he can't lose the games for the Leafs. He's got to just be, exactly how he's been, steady. And I think they're in a really good spot.
I should say, like, as much as I was saying like, oh, goalies, it doesn't matter. But like the main reason I say that is because like I think whatever, he can be totally fine, but I think just he has very much a capability to ruin the series for them. But I don't feel that he has that capability more than really any other goalie. Like again, like even last year, like look at Jack Campbell this year, and like he was pretty much the same as Vasilevsky in that series. So like, yeah, I know we pump up Vasilevsky because he has all the wins and everything, and I don't disagree that he's a great goalie, but just in the one series,
he was under 900 against the Leafs.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was,
so I mean, anything can happen, and hopefully goaltending doesn't sewer them, because that would be the most frustrating thing for sure.
Yeah. And then beyond that, how far do you see them going? What do you see after that into round 2 if they're to knock off Tampa?
So
I'm putting you on the spot.
Here we go again. Yeah. Because I've said this for a while. I personally think there's just so much weight on them for this one series that's when I see them going on a run. And like, I just think if they can, and I've picked them to win that series, I'm picking them to win the cup. I mean, I just think that
23.
Here we go. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Just they're big into the Jordan year. Yep. And I don't know, like again, like that can be such a freeing moment. And again, if that helps fire up the big guys, that they can, like I said, if Matthews can get on a roll, Marner's been great all year, Nylander's been the best I've ever seen him. Like if these guys can really dominate a couple games for us, I think that can really push us. And the other thing I would say is that like people thought, like obviously Boston is a great team, and I think would be the biggest threat in the East for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think like in the same way that I was just talking about Samsonov, like whatever, there's the capability to do anything. If you can find me one person at the beginning of this year that even like thought that Linus Ullmark was going to be a top 10 goalie in the league, like
no,
I'll give him $100. like it's such a crazy thing that's happened with them. And I just think that like to then all of a sudden be like, well, this is their team. Like they're a locked on dynasty now because Linus Ullmark is all of a sudden the best goalie in the league and all that stuff. Like I think just as easily he could have a very normal series, and I like they're a great team, but I don't think they're miles better than the Leafs in any way. Like I think they're pretty comparable teams, and with the big difference being that their goalie's been unbelievable this year.
Yeah. And the meeting they just had, man, like what a game. I mean, you look at it as 1-1 going into overtime, and it's a low scoring game. And, on the box score, maybe it doesn't shine, but that game was, it felt like a playoff game. And it was just awesome to see the Leafs go toe to toe with them, because I do think that series, it would be games that are of that nature. I think, like you said, I don't think Boston's levels above everybody. I will give them the respect and say they're the favorite in the East.
And they had an incredible season. You can't take that away from them. But I don't think that makes them like again, I still think like the Avs are good, but again, like they're worse than they were last year too. So like I think it's pretty open. I think it's open.
So then the transition, we're almost at the end here. I just want to get this now. So we have the Leafs coming out of the East in your books right now. I'm not gonna, hold you completely to that, but we'll say that you said that. And then on the West side, with it being a little more wide open, and Colorado's not that dynamite team they really were last year going into the playoffs. Landeskog hasn't even returned yet.
Yeah.
So who knows how that'll look if he gets back.
No Kadri.
No Kadri. McCarr's banged up, right? What do you see on the West side?
See, like, I do think the Avs are the best team in the West, but just to keep it interesting, like, I don't know. I just don't want to say the Avs because whatever, like, cool, your favorite team and the team that won last year, like, well, whatever. But, Edmonton could be a fun one. I personally, that's so tough. I really like the Kings roster.
Yeah. I'm big on the Kings. I've made that known. I'm big on the Kings, and they're probably, there's a good chance they run into Edmonton at a certain point, whether it be the first round or second round. And I can see them pushing Edmonton to 7 again and maybe beating them.
They played them so well last year. So
and I think they're better this year. I think Edmonton's better this year too, but I love LA's team. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go Leafs Oilers. Wow.
The McDavid Matthews matchup.
What a line. Oh, wow. The NHL, weirdly enough, I don't even know if they'd like that, the NHL, because like it's still 2 Canadian teams. I'm sure they want the American.
Well,
American
I will
guys
say,
in there.
I work for the league, and I do their ads on the website. So I'm familiar with all their website and app traffic, and if the Leafs go far, it does.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And obviously having the 2 of the best players in the league is going to be.
Yeah, I think from a marketable standpoint, that would be awesome to see those guys go head to head. And I think the 2 markets are just, they can be somewhat toxic on Twitter, and I think it would make for fun. So we'll close off on that. Leafs Oilers. I like that one. I like that a lot. So I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping so. And
imagine like that guarantee the cup returning to Canada. Wow.
And I like what you said. I do think, it's been said many times, but once the Leafs get this monkey off their back of the first round, I think it's just such an exhale for them, starting fresh in round 2. So at that point, sky's the limit. Fully agree.
How would you feel if just building out, like, do you feel any better about this year if, like, let's say they win in 5 first series, and then they play Boston next and they get swept? Would you feel any better about that as like versus last year?
Swept, like that's a kick. That's a kick to the balls. Them losing in 6 or 7 to Boston in a hard fought series, I could hang my hat on that sort of. I'd always wonder what if, but you know what, man, you do have to, they're going sort of all in this year. And we do also have to just realize expectation wise, like them winning the first round and then losing in 7 to Boston is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, no. Again, it's one of those things where like,
but swept.
Swept would be rough. I think I would hate that more than like losing in 7 to Tampa.
Yeah, that's right on par with that. I fully agree. I think that's just as frustrating. So, I can't see that happening, but
I agree. I just
time will tell.
Yeah. It's the playoffs. Anything can happen.
Yeah, Corwin, we're gonna have to stay in touch and maybe get you back on at some point during the playoffs. And
Stanley Cup final preview.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All the best in the future there. And I know you got a story you're working on, so make sure you promote that right now. What do you got going on with BARDOWN, TSN? Anything else you got going with yourself?
Yeah, we got a ton of new videos coming out. I feel like I haven't edited anything in a bit just because we just keep having things come up where we have to go for shoots or whatever. Had a really fun shoot last week that I can't really say anything about until it'll come out a while from now. But then Leafs pre-games videos. Pretty much any TSN game, I usually do a Leafs pre-game video. We'll throw it up on social too, and just talking Matthew Knies for one of them, talking President's Trophy curse that I think is bullshit. So I explained that a bit, and then still actually deciding what the third one will be. But yeah.
Lots going on right before playoffs.
I know.
All right, it's an exciting time. So let's call it a close here, put a bow on it, and go watch Matthew Knies in his debut versus Florida.
Couple goals, hat trick.
Let's see it.
Would you throw your hat on the ice for a hat trick?
I have talked about this with my brother, and we have said, yes, if we were at the game, we have to throw our hat on the ice if there's a hat trick. Therefore, I never wear my best hat to the game. You wouldn't have this problem because you have 4 of them. So.
Yeah. No, I still have the problem, though. I'm still I should wear a different hat. So
yeah. But yes, you should. I feel like it's sacrilegious if you don't. You definitely should.
I agree.
You got to participate in that.
I'm with you.
All right, Corwin.
Have a good night.
Sending off. Have a good night. Go Leafs, go.
Thanks, Corwin. Go Leafs,
go. Go Leafs, go, fellas.
Post-game recap of the Leafs versus Panthers live on the podcast. Well, I mean, I'm posting it, but Lucas, we're adding it on at the end to give some more, I would say, just relevance and updated chat after Corwin. Huge shout out to Lucas for getting that going and closing it out because I was on the road to stream for the Leafs. I streamed for the first period, but the rest of the way, man, Lucas, let's talk about it. Panthers, obviously they were desperate for points tonight. Samsonov storyline, Matthew Knies debut, Mitch Marner's at 99 points, Matthew's at 40 goals now. There's quite a few things we could go through here, but Lucas, man, 2-1 dub, Johnny Toronto. How you feeling?
There's so much there, right? There's so much to talk about, buddy. I'm feeling great, man, after that. I mean, I knew when Viveiros was going in, he's going backhand shelf. Yeah. It's like you said, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. What a shift.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, it's a big 2 points just for morale for the Leafs. Obviously doesn't mean much in the standings. It's good to go into the playoffs on a high. And for Florida, it's obviously a tough one because they could have clinched today. I think with a win. Yeah, because they would have more regulation wins than the Islanders, who lost today to Washington.
Was it 4-2 final?
They lost. Oh, dude, it might have been more than that. I think it was closer to 6. I think the Capitals maybe buried a few empty netters.
Damn. Well, that's crazy, right? Because it was 5-2 final.
5-2. Yeah.
And you know what? I actually look at the rest of the way now, and I know we talked about it a little bit. It's like the Penguins just all of a sudden they control their own destiny against 2 of the worst teams in the league. So I don't want to jinx Pittsburgh, but there are, at this point, Lucas, there's no excuses for the Pens. You are playing the Blue Jackets and Blackhawks. There's no excuses. You win those 2 games, you're in.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are in the toughest right now, just with the fact that it was right there for them to clinch tonight, and now they got Carolina in their last game. It's going to be a tough one.
Have the Habs. Yeah, I mean,
and Carolina, I don't know. They still have stuff to play for, really, to lock up the division, right?
Oh, 100%.
So I don't know how it's gonna shake out if they're gonna play their whole roster in the final game. But yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, like you said, they control their own destiny with those two games against weaker teams. The Islanders have Montreal. So that's a weak game that they should win. Yeah. But they need some help. And I didn't think I'd be saying that. I was very high on the Islanders making it. I'm not going to back down with Sorokin. I think they're going to get that win, and maybe they'll get some luck. But it's going to shape up like we wanted it, man. It's going to go right down to the wire.
That's crazy that I think, well, okay, I don't want to throw this agenda out there, but I feel like there's extra sauce now for the Islanders fans to hate the Leafs. The fact that we gave the Panthers the 1 point tonight, because now the Panthers and Penguins, it's looking like those 2 teams have the edge here, obviously, but Yeah, I don't know. As you said, the Hurricanes looking for that 1 seed. The Devils do play the Sabres tomorrow night as we're recording, so we'll see what the Devils do, obviously. But just quickly,
and
Lucas.
as far as the Leaf game too, I was
going to go back to the Leafs.
Yeah, Matthews obviously with 40 goals. I mean,
yeah,
come on. Did we think he wasn't hitting 40 goals? This guy's done it 4 years.
Hey, well, you were nervous a little earlier. You were nervous a little earlier.
Nah. You know what?
Come on, it's on recording. Get out of here.
You know what though? In deep down, I knew he was hitting it. I was just worried they were gonna rest him and then he wouldn't hit it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you because now tomorrow night, man, sorry, I don't want to skip past some of the topics. I'm not surprised if Matthews is rested, and after JT's goal tonight, I think Tavares on a high like that, rest him, maybe play him against the Rangers. But the whole thing was like you wanted Tavares to get going. Well, he just scored an OT winner against the desperate Panthers, so. I'm saying rest to, like, as much of a hot take as it is, rest at least one of those two centers tomorrow. Have O'Reilly play heavy minutes, get him going more.
I agree, man.
Yeah, just quickly, Matt Nyes. We got to talk Nyes, and then we'll finish it off with just more thoughts on the scenarios for playoffs. But so Nyes, I feel like, man, I liked a lot of what I saw in the first period. Heavy on the forecheck, he created 2 like high end chances for Kerfoot in front. Both shots on net there. So I liked his first period, a little nervous at times, but man, like I feel bad for the guy. The rest of the way it was pretty rough, I think. And he got sheltered like towards the end of the game, but 2 brutal giveaways. But just outside of that, man, how are you feeling on Nyes?
Yeah, I mean, it's about what I could say was expected tonight from him. I mean, he got even a little more ice time than I thought. He had just over 13 minutes and that's a lot for a kid who's playing his first game. And he didn't really have much time to get acclimated to the team or anything like that. He was shot right in.
He's just jumped in. Yeah.
Yeah. So you gotta give him props for that. And you see the flashes of what he has, and it's only good signs. I mean, in the second period, I know there was that one shift that he had a couple tough turnovers, especially right at the blue line, and maybe some nerves, maybe just, overall the NHL a lot tougher just to get the puck out in general. So I don't want to look too deep into the game for him, but great to get him his first game. And I hope he plays the last 2, because I think he should get, right around 13, 15 minutes a game and see what he has going into the playoffs. But John, like we don't really know how Sheldon Keefe's going to line up as far as game 1 goes. And a lot of it, we might still have to see depending on injuries and stuff like that. So good for Nyes, but overall, like not much in terms of, storyline to talk about as far as a big goal or like big 2 points or something like that. But like you said, I liked his game in the first, and he almost had an assist right off the get-go. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. And I was also going to say, just in terms of the forward dynamics, like, I don't know if Nyes will be in or not, to be honest. Like, I feel like those are the kind of mistakes that you really wanted to like see if he would avoid, because that just can't happen in the playoffs. So I feel like that's going to be it's going to affect the decision, obviously. As I said, tomorrow night, if they could rest at least one of the centers, I would like to see a look like with Achari in the middle, maybe Kampf on. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a scenario where Kampf has the flexibility to go to the wing. So I like the opportunity for Achari at center. But yeah, I thought Kerfoot looked okay tonight. I mean, he had some chances. I don't think there was any mistakes on his end. What do you think of Kerf?
He looked like he was buzzing, because I think he was trying to obviously make Nyes comfortable on the line with him. So I actually like Kerfoot's game a lot tonight, especially in those spells where Nyes was looking good on those shifts. But yeah, if Nyes is to come in, like we talked about with CORWIN, it's going to be either, Lafferty coming out, Kerfoot coming out. Like, who is it, right? Who is the guy that's coming out? Personally, for me, it'd be Kerfoot. But it's tough to call, man. Like, these are NHL vets.
It also depends on what version of Lafferty you get. And it also depends on like how you see both players. Like, if they trust Kerfoot as like a fill-in at center, or like a guy that can PK over Lafferty, it just depends on how they see that scenario. Because I mean, we've talked about it. Like, the reason why Hall is so solidified in this lineup, regardless of how he's playing, is the PK, right?
Yeah.
So that comes into play. Sorry, guys. I don't know if you caught it on camera. I was killing a spider on the wall. But
no, I didn't see it.
It was low key. I kept it low key. Anyways, the only other thing I wanted to touch on, and we just touched on it off air, was Nylander and Tavares in that OT. And I think we've seen it. I don't know if it's because they want to, I don't know, save it for playoffs. I don't know what it is, but OT was a prime example of Nylander, Tavares kind of going through the motions. Specifically Nylander, we've talked about it. Like, CORWIN was pumping his tires earlier, and I mean, hey, Nylander deserves the credit, but the last 10, 15 games, we've seen a lot of coasting from Nylander, just unengaged. And that was like that full 2-minute shift, Lucas. And then all of a sudden, puck goes in the neutral zone. Nylander's like all over it. And then obviously we saw Tavares all over the puck on the breakaway. Is there something to that, man? Or do you think it's just like Is it an
I don't
effort
know.
thing or just what is it?
I don't know if it's an effort thing. I'm really trying to think like really, if it's really something to get that deep about. I think maybe it's just that, Nylander's not known for his defensive game, and
because that was rough to watch for a hot minute there.
it was, but I feel like once the puck comes out and he has that burst of speed, it's not just that he wants to score. I think he's so desperate at that point. I need to go all out for it to make sure I can change.
Yeah.
But it's the Leafs in overtime are just weird, man. Like they don't win nearly as much as they should. I think they're 7-9 now on the season.
Let's just say Leaf fans should be happy there's no 3-on-3 OT in playoffs.
And that there's something to that where it's like I don't want to overthink about how they play in 3-on-3 because at the end of the day, it's not how the cup's awarded. So, I don't want to overthink about that one, but I do want to highlight quickly Matthews obviously hitting 40, but also at 299 all-time goals. He's one away from 300.
Unreal.
That'd be a big milestone to hit before the end of the year. If it doesn't happen, it'll be his first goal next season, which is also a good story. Johnny, I think he's in the top 5 or 6 now all time for Leafs.
It's up there. I think it's top 5 or 6. But I was also going to say, Lucas, and I know you've been beating this drum, and I said it last pod. Like it's embarrassing that people talk about Matthews having a down year. Just like stop. If this is Matthews' down year, there should be no conversations about it ever. Because if this is the worst it's going to get for Austin Matthews, stop. Don't even talk about it anymore.
Well, so today he tied Rick Vaive for number 5.
So that's what it was.
Now he's number 5. The next goal he'll be all alone at 5. And you know what, dude? Like at the end of the day, you look at his stats in terms of games played and how many goals he's got per game this year and all that. And it is a down year for him. And that's crazy. Like that's unbelievable. Like that's how good this guy is. He's 40 in the bank on a down year. He scored 40 in 4 years in a row. And 2 of those years were COVID years, man. Like this guy, come on. We can't be slandering this guy. He's going to be at 90 points roughly, right? I mean,
yeah, and I think if we talk about the total points and total production too, I also want to add something that I didn't bring up earlier in the CORWIN chat is, did you know that Tavares, like 50% of his points this year are on the power play?
I would have suspected that. I didn't know that, but I would have suspected. Like he's a power play god. Yeah,
so I think after tonight he's got like 79 points. He's close to 80. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I looked it up and I think like 38 of his points are on the power play. Also, just quick fun fact, I tweeted this out today. Tavares is top 7 in the faceoff category, like for faceoff wins, in terms of if a player's had at least 75 games played this year and 1,200 faceoff attempts.
Wow.
So dude, JT,
he's nice on the dot.
He's nice on the dot. I was saying a couple faceoffs in a row there and on the power play, watching O'Reilly or Matthews struggle a bit. And O'Reilly's usually good on the faceoff, but Tavares, man, he's been super consistent with that. And I will say, Lucas, looking at that OT winner, Tavares is only one of a couple on the team that have like the patience and confidence to do that. I feel like a lot of guys would either rush it or keep the puck low near like if you looked at Lion's pad, like if that's anywhere like this much off the ice, it's a save. Right.
Yeah. And I think if Matthews or Marner or Nylander, those 3 guys come in, I don't necessarily know if I'm more confident in them than John Tavares on a breakaway. I think on a one-on-one breakaway, I like John Tavares, and I like Ryan O'Reilly does that move too, that backhand shelf.
Yeah. Man,
like
honestly, if he didn't muffin that puck a little bit there on that, it was kind of like a half break for him on Lion. Yeah. Like he looks confident, man. I think it's also just a maturity thing, like the patience to hold on to the puck longer. I mean, like you've seen the progression from Nylander and Marner over the years, but you still see sometimes they rush plays versus O'Reilly and Tavares waited out.
O'Reilly's just like he's like the least flashy player, but it's just there's something so beautiful about watching
simplicity.
Him play. Yeah, right, like unbelievable. But last thing on the Leafs, I do want to say we haven't talked about him yet, and he deserves big kudos tonight. Samsonov.
Yeah, sorry, we buried the lead. We buried the lead big time.
Another unbelievable performance. That save on Tkachuk in overtime is the only reason we're talking about the Leafs winning this game. He made a number of saves in overtime. He probably had
unreal. Yeah, I mean there was I think there was Lucas. I think there was 2 or 3 like cross crease or cross ice plays where Samsonov got across to make the save. Were you worried when Brody fell on his leg there? The same leg.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like I saw your reaction to it, and it's one of those ones where
I was shitting myself, man.
There's no need to maybe go all out, but in the moment, you don't think like that, and you don't think that's how it's going to end up. And TJ Brody is, even in overtime when Brody and Montour were going at it, it's just every time I see Brody on the TV, man, because it's not much like that you really notice him. He might be Kyle Dubas's, like this is different perspective right now, but he might be Kyle Dubas's best pickup. Like He's
yeah,
just so
that
good,
or like
man.
I would say the Bunting signing was
Yeah.
like
But
for that value. But yeah, you're right.
For
Honestly,
value,
overall,
we never talk about him. No one ever talks about him, but he's just consistent night in, night out. That one was scary. And if that goes a different way, I mean, we're talking about it completely differently. But Samsonov might be battling an injury. I know that theory is out there.
Maybe,
He looks like he's a little uncomfortable, but you know what? I kind of always think he looks uncomfortable in a way. He doesn't have this beauty simplicity like Freddie Anderson had, where it's just very.
No, yeah, like Sam's like I would say, like I hear some players talking about like Samsonov's control or Samsonov's positioning, but it's like I feel like if you look at Ilya Samsonov and what he's done this year, like it's athleticism, like full out. I just think in different ways he gets across, in different ways, like even sometimes in his arm movement, whether it's up high or like to close in close to his side of his body, like I mean 44 saves in the night, I mean he gets it done. So
and there's a reason he was a first round pick. Like he had all this he potential. Like he's man, he's a solid goalie. He's proving it night in, night out for the Leafs. I know that's kind of against our CORWIN chat in terms of just like, goaltenders are just, it's tough. It's really tough to like one year to the next. It's so different. It depends on the system they're in and all that, but he deserves so much credit this year. Truly, like now that the season's just about to wrap, no matter what happens, like truthfully though, no matter what happens in the playoffs, you have to look at the body of work of Samsonov in the season and really respect what he's done this year. He has gone above and beyond what fans could have asked for. Really. I mean, when Kyle Dubas took the chance on this tandem, it looked like a downgrade from last year. And Samsonov has been unbelievable this year, man. Consistent. There's barely been any dips really that I can recall. Consistent dips. 42 games this year, and he's been so good. He's been everything and more that I really thought. Like I was one of those guys who thought that he was going to take the starting job over Murray. I think a lot of people did. Over time, I think a lot of fans thought Keefe and Dubas, they wanted Murray to take it, but overall Samsonov would eventually get it, and he's ran away with it. Like it's not even close, man.
Well, I actually made like some bold predictions before the season, and so what my take was, and I've kind of been reverting back to the Washington Pittsburgh example, so maybe it's just like a lame kind of reach for me, but my take was like Murray was going to start and Samsonov was going to take over because of like a Murray injury or something. I figured that was bound to happen. And then Samsonov take it, but Murray take over at some point later in the season playoffs. Obviously that take is just not possible because Murray can't stay healthy at all.
Yeah. And I don't want to fault him too much for the last injury though.
Yeah. But I do think Samsonov, like I have the confidence in Samsonov. I'm just worried, man, that it's like, he has that lack of experience. He has that lack of winning in the playoffs. And I mean, kind of what we joked about before is like, if Samsonov falters in a game or two there early in the series, like, what are they going to do? Like, if Murray's not healthy, like, you don't like it's at that point.
Well, it's something we didn't really talk about with CORWIN, and I had that question sort of lined up, but we went in so many different directions. And I guess you're saying if the Leafs were to lose both games at home, like, what do you do after that? And
or even
Samsonov
like
doesn't look great,
for example, and obviously in the Columbus Washington example that I revert back to, like Columbus won those first two games. Holtby goes in, Washington wins 4 straight. So I don't necessarily think that's going to happen with Toronto, but like, for example, what if game 1 Leafs win, but they win 6-5 and Samsonov allows 5 goals on 25 shots or 24 shots. And then game 2, he just gets lit up. What do you do there? You probably go back to him, but it's like at that point, say Samsonov allows 10 goals in 2 games or 8 goals in 2 games. What do you do at that point? Again, to me, maybe this is a reverse jinx, but my worry now is like they had the confidence in Murray there. Again, Samsonov just doesn't have that experience. I hope, in me saying this and playing devil's advocate, I don't know. Lucas, do you have a mindset on that? Like, do you just ride Samsonov because of Murray's like injury?
I'm on the camp. I truly believe this could bite me in the butt, but I truly believe that like Matt Murray shouldn't get another game this year.
Well, yeah, man, if he's not 100%.
Like if he's not playing before playoffs, I don't want him coming in game 3 or game 4
no
of a high stakes series.
No chance.
So therefore you're turning to wall. And it's a way different comparison. But I know last year, Ville Husso took the net in St. Louis and started game 1 and 2. And he got lit in one of those games and they lost and Binner came in and won 4 straight. Completely different because Binner's got the pedigree, right?
Yeah.
And Wall doesn't have that. So I think that's a little panicky to,
and
that's a lot of pressure on Wall.
And that's why I kind of made the point of Murray, because it's like usually in that scenario, and I forget who said it, but it's like, Jackie Redmond said it actually. she said it's much easier to go from like the younger guy to the vet versus like go to the vet to put all the pressure on the younger guy.
On the young guy. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's like when Washington started with Grubauer, obviously, and he faltered. They had Holtby, who they've trusted for years and years.
Yeah. Big, like obviously didn't mean anything, but big dub in my eyes. I mean, it's a division rival. You took a point away from them. And obviously at the end of the day, you got Matthews to 40. I think that's a big confidence boost. You're one away from Marner, 100 points. And as we talked about, I know we kind of played devil's advocate there at the end, but at the end of the day, Samsonov just keeps looking more confident and confident. Hopefully he's healthy, but 44 saves on 45 shots, 2-1 Leafs dub in overtime. John Tavares. And yeah, as we talked about, I mean, he's showing, and I revert back to Game 6, and I know you hate hearing this from me, what should have been a Game 7 goal. And you see those moments from Tavares, the 2 in Game 6, what could have been a Game 7. Like those are the moments in tight that he does. And yeah, as you talked about, I don't think it's too much of a hot take to say if you want a guy in that scenario all alone by himself, like JT's up there, if not the guy.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, we're 1 week away, man. One week from
away.
playoffs.
It's crazy. It doesn't seem like it, but it'll probably, like, once the season's over is when I usually be like, wow, it's
it's gonna seem like it. It's gonna seem like it this week when it's getting up to 23, 24 degrees here in the GTA.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, playoffs a week away. We'll see 3-team race between the Pens, Islanders, and the Panthers. And man, I honestly I wanted to believe it'd come down to the last game, but honestly, I'm glad that both conferences have this because last year it was like nothing basically, especially in the East. Like the East was like locked in weeks before.
As we're speaking, Calgary and Nashville are playing, right? And Nashville's up 1-0 in the first, so that's a huge game. It's got big implications. Huge can knock. Well, Calgary can almost be. No, they won't be knocked yet because Winnipeg won tonight, and they still got a couple points. Yeah. But it's going to come down to the last game, man.
Yeah.
It's coming down to the last game. That's what we wanted. John, I want to say next week, we got another big guest coming on, and you wanted to throw this out there that get the bracket challenge predicting. So
yes.
I'll be doing that.
Yes.
I know you'll be doing yours as well.
Yep. So it's going to be fun. I think overall, it usually puts up the most debate, but Lucas, I'm intrigued to see your bracket, man.
We got to do ours like completely separate. We're not communicating.
Yeah, we're not.
We got to bring ours to the table, and that way we have no chat about it to the point where it's completely wrong.
Like mine will be made probably like on the Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
Thursday or Friday. So you cannot watch that video. Do not look at that video.
I will not do it. I'll have mine by Sunday morning, and then once we record, we'll go through it and stuff. We can debate and everything, and hopefully we don't have the exact same.
And
bracket.
Then as you give your picks out, I'll reveal what I got.
Yeah, there we go. I revealed one of mine on the pod today, and I have Leafs in 6 over Tampa.
Woo!
Hopefully that doesn't bite me.
We'll see what happens.
CORWIN with the fiber.
Bro, that guy, CORWIN, you're going to be getting your couple tweets at you, man. You're going to get a couple.
Wild.
So we'll see. You know what? I really hope we see it this year, Lucas. I'll save the combos for the rest of the week, but thank you guys so much. Episode 32. And you flip that around. You got a Matty Knives debut tonight. That was cool, man. Honestly, I'll finish it off by just saying I'm glad we got the Knives debut tonight. And honestly, I hope he plays the last 2. So
I hope so too. I know it's going to be a tough turnaround with the back-to-back, but like he's got young legs. Get him in there.
Yep. We'll see if the Leafs rest some guys throughout the rest of the NHL. Lots of races still in division spots and for wild cards. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Make sure you check it out on Spotify and Apple, the Hot Take Hockey Podcast. From Lucas and myself, huge shouts to Lucas for the CORWIN chat as well. Have a great one. Peace.